This isn't just a massive matchup in the SEC. It's one of the biggest games in college football this weekend. Tennessee heads to Tuscaloosa, to a place they haven't won in over 2 decades. And this time, the stakes couldn't be higher. I'm Paige Dauer. This is the Sports Page. It's the third Saturday in October. Tennessee and Alabama. They've traded wins with each other over the last 4 meetings. And you could look to Josh Heupel and how he's turned around that volunteer program that's reignited one of college football's best rivalries.
This is why you come to Tennessee to play in a game like this, and a great rivalry game with Alabama.
A win on Saturday, and Tennessee puts itself squarely in the playoff conversation. So what has to happen for Tennessee to get its first win in Tuscaloosa since 2003? Let's break it down.
It means a lot because, like Hype said, this is the games that you come here for.
The greatest advantage Tennessee has, they're the 7th best passing offense in the country. And Joey Aguilar's ability to stretch the field vertically is something few expected or even anticipated back in the summer. Because if you remember entering fall camp, this team, it was full of unproven talent and new faces, even in their returning talent, like wide receiver Chris Brazzell Jr. In 2024, he finished the season with just 29 catches and just over 330 yards. Those totals is a mark he passed just through the first 5 weeks of the regular season. We could keep it in the wide receiver room. Pretty much an unknown commodity would be Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. They had limited experience in their true freshman seasons. Would they be able to rise to their potential in 2025? So far, they have. You could expand it a little bit to Tennessee's passing attack when they get the tight ends and the running backs involved. Will Miles Kittelman, will he continue to develop? How about newcomers like Star Thomas transferring in from Duke, adding into that running back room? How would he be able to operate in the robust passing attack of Tennessee? Well, they've more than exceeded expectations. That's why they're the 7th best passing offense in the country, averaging more than 300 yards a game. And the trio of Chris Brazzell Jr., Mike Matthews, and Braylon Staley, it's one of the most dynamic in the country. Even though Brazzell had a quiet night against Arkansas, let's not forget, he's on the Biletnikoff watch list for the best wide receiver in the country. He's 6'5", and his physicality at the catch point absolutely changes games. And it's something his quarterback caught on to right away. I remember Joey talking about over the summer they would spend time throwing around together. They wanted to see where Brazzell was weak or where he was strong. And what Joey found out was Chris Brazzell Jr. is strong everywhere. His catch radius is everywhere. He says he's good at everything. So even when he had a quiet night against Arkansas, and mostly because he had extra attention from the defense, we saw how deep that wide receiver room was, because it required the other wideouts to step up, and Braylon Staley absolutely did. As the slot receiver, he's constantly working through traffic, and maybe that contributed to a little bit of a slower start for the redshirt freshman. Trying to work through that contact required him to be a little bit tougher, and that's something he told me he has really been focusing in on, not only in the bye week, which was a premium, but throughout this whole season. And you're starting to see the reward of that hard work, especially against Arkansas. He had a career best 109 yards against the Razorbacks, and all of that is a credit to how he has consistently worked. And what it shows us, again, is how deep and versatile this wide receiver room is.
Braylon played that way on Saturday because he's full of confidence, because of how he works, really from the time that he got here, and just continues to progress in his development.
That same confidence, that same toughness will be needed. Alabama has the 3rd best pass defense in the country, allowing just under 140 yards a game. Stingy as ever. And that sets up for one of the most intriguing matchups of this game. And here's where I think Tennessee can test that Alabama pass defense. We talked about all the unproven talent and the new faces to the offense. And what that favors is the structure of Tennessee's offense. They want to get it to tight ends. They want to pass it to the running backs. That's why Joey Aguilar has been able to get it to 5, 7 different receivers a game. And when we can look to the trends on Alabama's schedule, one of the teams that was able to get it to 5 or 7 different receivers was Vanderbilt. And what they did was they forced Alabama to give up their most yardage on the season. But Alabama was able to get timely stops. Still, it gives Tennessee a window to apply pressure on that Crimson Tide defense to maybe have stops and avoid Alabama getting those timely stops. Friday, it's Live Ball with myself, VFL Todd Kelly Jr., and the voice of the Crimson Tide and Chris Stewart. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you hit that subscribe button.
It's cool that you've seen different wide receivers on a given Saturday, kind of been the lead guy for whatever reason, coverage, call, whatever it might be. And Braylon's made a tremendous amount of plays, but Saturday was a great day for him.
Now let's flip it. For all the criticism that Tennessee's defense gets, they've been opportunistic. 11 forced turnovers this season, 4 just against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Yet it was still a one-possession game. For Tennessee to go down to Tuscaloosa, to a place that they've only won a pair of games since the turn of the century, playing complementary football, taking advantage of those extra possessions, will be the biggest factor in this game. Because on paper, these two programs share plenty of similarities, even down to the fact that they both have 11 forced turnovers on the season. So for Tennessee to deliver game-changing type plays, which I think the win will require of them, trust is a huge factor. And I could go back to the Arkansas game, and I noticed that in the second half of that matchup, the defense played with much more inspired energy. In fact, Joshua Joseph said that they made a decision to actually put more trust in each other, to go out there and do their jobs, which is just a echoed sentiment of what their position coach had harped on all week through the bye week, to just go out there and do your job to the best of your ability, right? Like, don't be Superman. And it's the same sentiment that even gets echoed this week by defensive back Jalen McMurray, who says not only will that trust help us maybe make more game-changing type plays, it actually will allow us to play more consistent, which is all this defense truly needs.
You need to trust like the other people to do their job so you can execute yours, and that kind of goes back to the playmaking, like everyone does their job, someone's going to make a play.
And McMurray could be right. Even through their lapses on defense, they're still top 15 in the country in categories like sacks and TFLs. They're an opportunistic team. They just struggle with inconsistency. And if they could hit their stride against the Tide, well, this becomes an even more intriguing matchup. And even beyond the firepower and the fundamentals, I think the game actually gets decided in this factor. We could look to the stats, we could look to the tape, and it all points to one thing. This is going to be a close game. When the lines opened up earlier this week, places like VIP Play had the Tide as an 8.5-point favorite. I do not think this is going to be a 2-possession game. I think this will be a 1-possession game, and I look to the trends. Tennessee's 3 conference games this season have been dictated by 1 possession. 2 of Alabama's 3 victories have been decided by a field goal. So what's the difference? It's all been clutch scoring. Tennessee's been explosive early in games, but they've struggled to contain their ability to pile up points late in games. Meanwhile, Alabama has a strong ability to finish games. They stay aggressive when it matters. Let's not overlook that. In fact, let's also consider the fact that Alabama's back has been up against the wall since week 1, since that devastating and embarrassing loss to FSU. But how have they responded? They've responded with toughness. They've shown toughness since week 1. The Tide's head coach and Kalen DeBoer says, in fact, that they've used that time and all of that criticism as opportunities to pour into each other. So much so that he starts his press conference by praising the team's ability to find wins. Yes, Alabama still has breakdowns on offense and defense, but through those breakdowns, what remains a constant is Alabama continues to fight. And I think with the way that Kalen DeBoer starts his press conference with that, tells me that passion and that fight, that mentality, is a huge aspect to how they're preparing for the Tennessee Volunteers. Because when we look to the other side for Tennessee, late in games they often get into this preservation mode instead of attack mode. Meanwhile, Alabama has a strong ability to finish games. And that mentality could absolutely decide this game.
We have to be able to trust each other while we're on that field, and I feel like we're at that point.
Tennessee could absolutely pull the upset in this game, the same way they have in their last 2 wins in this series. But this time in Tuscaloosa, what's going to be required of them is to stay in attack mode, trust the defense to have game-changing plays, and finish drives. It's the third Saturday in October. It's Tennessee and Alabama, and it has all the makings for another instant classic. And we'll have so much more on this matchup coming up on Live Ball with myself and VFL Todd Kelly Jr. Also, the voice of the Tide and Chris Stewart is joining the show Friday morning at 8:30. Also coming up on this program, we have an interview, a sit-down conversation with Lady Vols assistant coach and Gabe Lazo, talking about his Cuban heritage and how that's shaped him into the mentor and coach that he is today. So turn on your notifications because you're not going to want to miss out on any of the conversations we have coming up this week. I'll talk to you guys later. God bless.